Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha, Gurureva Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Chinmayam Vyapyat Sarvam, Trailokyam Sacharacharam, Tatpadam Darshitam Yena, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Twameva Mata Cha Pita, Twameva Bandhuscha Sakha, Twameva Vidya Dravinam, Twameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva, Twameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva. Jai Guru. Ya Devi Sarva Bhuteshu Marupena Sanstitaha, Namastasyai 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 Namo Namaha. Ya Devi Sarva Bhuteshu Shakti Rupena Sanstitaha, Namastasyai 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 Namo Namaha. Ya Devi Sarva Bhuteshu Buddhi Rupena Sanstitaha, Namastasyai 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 Namo Namaha. Ya Devi Sarva Bhuteshu Lakshmi Rupena Sanstitaha, Namastasyai 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 Namo Namaha. So we are in our third chapter, and the subject under discussion is, what is the root cause of liberation? And the answer that Dattatreya gives is satsang, sadhu sangha, association with the wise. Once we come in contact with someone who knows, it's all very different. And to illustrate this, he's begun the wonderful story of Hemaleka and Hemachuda. And we met with the king, Muktachuda, and his two sons, Manichuda and Hemachuda. And the kids are out hunting in the forest, and a huge sandstorm comes up, and everybody runs for cover. And Hemachuda stumbles upon an ashram. Can't remember. Did he see the damsel there who greeted him?
We haven't reached there yet.
Okay, so he's just going into the ashram. And one of the things that's very interesting, it's all storming on the outside, but inside the ashram, it's serene, and the birds are singing, and there's cool water. Pretty groovy. So let's see what happens. Ganesh, will you help us out? And what verse number are we on? Ganesh, I think you're muted.
I'm just trying to figure out which number are we on.
Does someone else know?
Might be 51, 52.
Can you hear me?
No, I think it was 21.
Yeah,
Verse 21 on chapter 3.
21.
Yep.
I agree.
21, chapter 3. Okay. Okay. Tam drishtva rajaputropi padmavi surupinim smayamana iva pritchad ka tvam padmanane vane nirjane bhiti janane nirbhayeva samasthita kasya tvamapi kenatra nevasasye kalakatham. Having seen her beautiful like a lotus, the prince, also smiling as it were, asked, "Who are you, lotus-faced one? You are dwelling in a lonely forest, causing fear, but remain as if you are fearless. To whom do you belong, and why and how you live here alone?"
So you've got to remember, he's a young stud. I don't know, maybe late teens, early 20s. And he's thinking with his hormones. And she is drop dead gorgeous. He sees no one else around. And he asks, "Who are you? And to whom do you belong?" Meaning, who's your family? And who's responsible for you? So, but you got to understand that he's probably got a grin going on from ear to ear, and he's having a hard time keeping his eyes off of her. So let's see what happens. Going on.
पृष्टैवं प्राहसा कन्या राजपुत्रम् अनिन्दिता स्वागतं ते राजपुत्र पिष्टरं प्रतिपद्यतां तपस्विनामयं धर्मः पूजनं कृतिते स्थूयात् श्रान्तं त्वामभिपश्यामि यथितं Chandavayuna. Thus asked, that blameless maiden told the prince, "Prince, welcome to you. Please accept this seat, because the worship of a guest is the duty of ascetics. I see you wearied, afflicted by the fear storm."
So she is fearless. She is fearless. And she doesn't even get all upset about it. She sees that he's, short of breath. He's been running from the storm. So she offers him a seat. Remember, the guest is God. So because he's a guest in the ashram, it is the duty of all of us, but especially of ascetics, to offer hospitality. Offer hospitality. Let's see what happens next.
Badhva karjura vraksheshma matrasino gatashramah madvritta marhasi shrotuhu ityukta sa tatha karot. Having tied the horse to the date tree and sitting here with your fatigue departed, you can hear my history. Thus told, he did accordingly.
So he ties his horse up to the local date tree and then sits down and waits to listen to her story. Going on.
Phalani bhojayamasa payayamasa sadrisam एवं तं विश्रमं प्राप्तं राजपुत्रम् अनिन्दत प्राहवा मधुसंस्राव पेशलः कारया गिरा. She fed him with fruits and made him drink good water. The blameless maiden told that prince, who had obtained rest thus, with words tender in form and exuding sweetness.
So she's a really sweet girl. And she gives him refreshment, cool water, and some fruit to eat and stuff like that. She's very hospitable. Let's see what else happens. Going on.
Rajaputra Vyagrapado Muni Shivapadashrayah Yena Lokah Punyatama Jita Swatapaso Balat Paravarajno Hyanisham Pujito Muninayakaihi. Prince Vyagrapada, the sage who has resorted to the feet of Lord Shiva, and by whom the most holy worlds have been won by the strength of his penance, is the knower of reality, or the all-inclusive truth, and is ever worshipped by distinguished sages.
So her guardian is the great sage Vyagrapada. And as Swamiji would say, he's out of station at the moment. So she's answered the question, to whom does she belong? And then, of course, the question arises, is Vyagrapada her father? So she's going to go on and answer about her parentage. Going on.
Tasyaham dharmadah putri Hemalekheti Vishruta Vidyut Prabhakya Vidyadhri Sa Sarvangam Manohara Imam Venamanu Nadim Snatum Abhyayayo Pachet Tada Tatra Jagamarthat Susheno Vangabhupatihi, and his daughter adopted by a sense of duty, known as Hemalekha. Sometime a celestial woman by name Vidyut Prabha, beautiful in her entire body, came to bathe in this river, Vena. At that time, Sushena, the king of Vanga, came there as a matter of course.
So we find out that Vyagrapada is only her foster father. And her actual parentage, there's a celestial damsel who came to bathe in the river. And we don't know if she was naked or we had a wet sari situation. But the king comes along and he sees her. So let's see what happens now.
Sadadarsha Vigahantim Nadim Tam Lokasundarim Klinnam Shukantaratyanta Vyaktapina Kuchadvayim. He saw that woman, beautiful in her class, bathing in the river with a large breast, very much visible within her wet garment.
So she is clothed in a garment, but it's wet and see-through. And she has a beautiful bust line. He is smitten and aroused. Let's see what happens.
Kamaban hatastatra tam prarthayat athapi sa saundaryamohita tasya taduktim samamamsata. There, the prince, struck by the arrows of Cupid, prayed for her companionship, and she, fascinated by his beauty, consented to his words.
So struck by the arrows of Cupid is a bit euphemistic. He was hot for her. And she rather enjoyed the attention. And so she responds to his amorous advances. Let's see what happens now.
Sangam yathataya raja yayau svanagaram prati dadhara sapi vidhyagri garbham rajarshi viryatah. Then the king, having associated with her, went to his city. That celestial woman too bore a child in her womb due to the seminal energy of the royal sage.
So back in those days, they didn't have Tinder. He met by the river, but he certainly had a hookup. So he and the celestial damsel have a hookup. A moment, occasional tryst. He goes back to his city and his palace, and she's pregnant. Now, being a celestial damsel, she doesn't have to wait 9 months to have a baby. Let's see what happens. Going on.
Bhita pacharat patyuhu sagarvam tyaktva trasamyayo amoghaviryad rajarshihi jataham kanyakatatah. Afraid of her husband on account of her improper conduct, she in due course went away, leaving her fetus there. Due to the unfailing energy of the kingly sage, I was consequently born as her daughter.
So she has a way to have the child mature. She goes ahead and has the baby right there by the banks of the river, and then goes back to her celestial consort. We don't know who he is, but she wasn't going to let him know she had the hookup. So the baby is there, born of a royal king and a celestial damsel, right there by the side of the river. Now let's see what happens.
Mam dadarsha vyaghrapadah sandhyopastyarthamagatah dayaya mamupadaya apala yadnani yatha. Vyagrapada, who had come there for worshipping Sandhya or for his daily meditation, taking me away out of compassion, protected me like a mother.
So Vyagrapada comes along and sees the baby. He was collecting flowers or whatever that he needed for his puja, and he sees the baby and adopts her, takes her back to the ashram, to the hermitage, and protects and raises her as her foster father. Going on.
Dharmena yah palayita prochyate hi pitaiva saha aham tasya dharmaputri pitraseva parayana. He who is dutifully a protector is indeed declared as a father only. I am his lawful daughter, devoted to the service of the father.
So whatever her parentage is not important. Her father is he who protects her, which is what Vyagrapada does. So she is his lawful daughter, even though he himself did not engage in any kind of amorous activity to bring this about. Going on.
Tasya mahatmayo metra bhayam nastyaiva kutrachet nayam suraivaha api nayam surasairvat नायं सुरासुरैर्वापि कदाचित् दुष्टबुद्धिभिः प्रवेष्टाम् आश्रमोऽर्ह्यस्यात् प्रविशन्नाशमाप्नुयात् एतन्मे विहितं वृत्तं तिष्ठ किञ्चन नृपात्मज. On account of his greatness, there is no fear at all for me anywhere else. This hermitage cannot be entered at any time, even by gods or demons with wicked intentions. Entering with
Yeah.
such intentions, one would meet with destruction. This, my history, has been declared to you. Prince, stay for a while.
So she says that I've now told you my personal history, and there's an aura of sanctity here in this hermitage, such that people who are without good intention can't even find their way in here. And if they did have bad intentions, it would lead to their destruction. Vyagrapada, his sankalpa, is strong enough to protect everyone and everything inside the hermitage. So she says, hang out for a while. So it seems that, like her mother, she has an attraction for good-looking young men. Let's see what happens.
Ayasyati sa bhagavan पिता मे तं निशामय प्रणम्य तं प्राप्य चेष्टं ततः कल्ये प्रयास्यसि. He, my revered father, will arrive. See or listen to him. Having saluted him and having obtained your wish, we will depart afterwards at daybreak.
So she says, my father will be coming home soon. He will know what to do and will answer your questions and basically fulfill your wish. Then you can leave at daybreak and go back to the palace. So let's see what happens next.
हेमलेखावच श्रुत्वा तत्सौन्दर्येण मोहितः भीतः किञ्चित् प्रवुक्तं तां विमना इव चाभवत्. Having heard the words of Hemalekha, the prince, fascinated by her beauty and frightened to speak anything to her, became as it were disconsolate.
So he is so smitten with her, he can barely speak. He doesn't know what's going to happen. And he's quite taken with the situation. So let's see what happens next. Going on.
अथालक्ष्य राजपुत्रं कामस्य वशमागतं राहसा विदुषी भूयो राजपुत्रधृतिं भज. Then seeing the prince come under the influence of love, that wise maiden said again, Prince, have fortitude.
So how can I say this? She notices his arousal is basically what it's saying. And she says, be steady, have fortitude. He's not only smitten, but his, well, you know how young men's bodies are. What can I say? Going on.
Agachati pita sadhyah tato abhilisha tato abhila tato bhilashitam bhaja evam vadantyam tasyam sa vyagrapado mahamunihi ajagamavanat patra pushpade krita sanchayah munim Samagatam drishtva Rajaputra samutthitah. My father will come quickly, then receive what is desired. When she was speaking thus, Vyagrapada, that great sage, arrived from the forest after collecting leaves and flowers for daily worship. Having seen the sage who had arrived, the prince got up.
So Vyagrapada returns. He's got articles for puja, and as he enters, the prince, in his embarrassed state, stands up to greet him. Going on.
Pranamya nama samshravya upavishtasthena Pranamya nama samshravya upavishtasthena deshitah atha drishtva rajaputram kamena vikritakritim ज्ञात्वा योगदृशा सर्वं मत्वा युक्तं च तत्तदा दारक्रियार्थं तस्मै तां हेमरेखां तदौ मुनिः. Having bowed to him, reporting his name, he sat down, directed by him. Then, seeing the prince, whose appearance had been affected by love, and knowing everything by his yogic vision, and considering that as proper, the sage therefore handed over that Hemalekha to him for marriage.
Yes. So Hemachuda pranams, then sits down, and Vyagrapada sees that this kid is quite smitten by desire, kama, by love, and his Cupid's arrow, shall we say. And he then sees what's the wisest course of action. And he thinks it's a good marriage for his foster daughter. So he gives his daughter, Hemalekha, to Hemachuda for marriage. Going on.
Tushto Rajakumaropi Tamadaya Puram Yayo Mukta Chudoti Santushto Mahot Savavidhanatah Vivaham Akarot Tasya Vidhanena Kshitishvarah. The satisfied prince in turn went to his city, taking her. King Muktachuda, who was extremely satisfied, conducted his marriage with proper rites, consequent on the sacred precepts for great celebrations.
So the king thinks it's a good marriage. And Hemachuda has brought Hemalekha back. They are subsequently married in a proper way. So now they are husband and wife. So let's see what happens in this relationship. Going on.
Atha Rajakumaropi Taya Krida Parasada Saudheshu Panarajishu Pulinadishu Sambabho. Afterwards, the prince for his part was united with her in palaces, forest ranges, sandy beaches, and the like, wholly engaged in pastimes.
So he can't keep his hands off of her. So they just keep going from one palace to another, to the beach, everywhere they go. It's a honeymoon. It's the ancient version of a beautiful honeymoon on the French Riviera, that kind of thing. So they're spending quite a bit of time doing the mufti pufti and enjoying the great pleasure of young love in a brand new marriage. Going on.
हेमलेखां राजपुत्रो भोगेश्व नति कामिनीम् उदासीनां सदा दृष्ट्वा पप्रच्छ रहसि क्वचित्. The prince, seeing Hemalekha, not very much desirous of enjoyments and always indifferent to pleasures, asked her in solitude somewhere.
So, as with many of us, it's not just our pleasure in the act of lovemaking. Part of it is the pleasure we give our partner. So he's a little taken aback, am I doing it wrong? Why is she not enjoying it as much as I? She seems rather indifferent to the whole business. So this perplexes him. So let's see what he says and does about it.
Kim priye nanuraktai e maya nuragini kuto bhogeshu natyantam asaktasi chuchismite kim bhogaste mano yogya na santyatra kutasfidim. Dear, why are you not attached to me, your beloved, and enamored of you? Sweet smiling one, why are you not very much intent on enjoyments? Are not objects of enjoyment here appropriate to your desire? Whence is this attitude of yours?
So he wonders, am I not pleasing you? Am I not your type? Did your father give you in marriage to me and you're not turned on? What's the matter with it? I try to please you, and not only in the marital bed, but with fine gowns and palaces and food and stuff like that. And you just seem indifferent. And it's no fun if you're indifferent, because part of my pleasure is pleasing you. So let's see what happens.
Atyuttameshu bhogeshu nasakteva vibhasi me tvayayasakti vihinayam katham me sukhadaratihi. You appear to me as unattached, even to enjoyments, which are very excellent. How can my union with you give pleasure when you are devoid of attachment?
Yes. So he sees in her a person who's not attached. She's unattached to these pleasures. It's not that she runs away. She doesn't seem to be exhibiting any aversion, but she's not craving it, hungry for it, the way he is, and the way he would like her to be. Well, it's not fun for him if she's detached. Not only in lovemaking, but in all the other aspects of living the life of a royal princess. Let's see what happens.
Asakte maija pitvam bhasyanya gatamanasa bhashitapi maya bhuyo na shrunoshyeva kinchana. Even when I am strongly attached to you, you appear as one with a mind gone to another. Though spoken to repeatedly, you just do not hear anything.
So there he is, being very passionate with her, and it's as if she's distracted. It's as if she's not even present. What's going on with her? He's on the verge of calling the court psychiatrist. oh my gosh, is there something weird about this gal? Let's see what happens. Going on.
Agatam kantasamlagnam chiradapi vibhavya cha kada nathagatam cheti prichhasya vidita yatha. Perceiving me, come and united with you. Perceiving me, come and unite with you in embrace, even for a long time. Perceiving me, come and united with you in embrace, even for a long time. You ask as if unknown, Lord, when did you come?
So this is really funny, and you need to understand the Sanskrit pun. The word is gam gachati in Sanskrit. It's actually the same root where we get the English word come. In all of the Indo-European languages, the word come has two meanings. It not only means when did you arrive, but it means when did you have an orgasm. So it's really quite funny. So there he is, jumping up and down, doing his business. And she opens her eyes and goes, oh, Lord, when did you come? And it has the dual meaning. It's really quite funny and R-rated. So going on.
Veshaleshu prabhogeshu durlabheshu kvachinnate mana asajjate kasman nakinchid anumodasi. Your mind does not fasten upon enjoyments, which are lovely and difficult to be attained anywhere. For what reason do you not join in rejoicing at anything?
So he's, just calls it the way it is. You don't seem to enjoy what we're doing. And it's not just the lovemaking, whatever enjoyments. You seem to be completely indifferent. What's going on? Going on.
Maya virahitam tvam vai nimilya nayane sthitam yada yadopagacchami pashyami cha tada tada. Whenever I approach you, separated from me at that time, I see you remaining with closed eyes.
So it seems that when he's with her, she's there, though detached. But when he goes away, and then when he comes back to approach, she's just kind of sitting there with her eyes shut. What's she doing? Sitting there with her eyes shut. She's not sleeping. What's she doing? Is she fantasizing? What's going on? What is this practice, this state that she seems to be in? Where her mind goes to some place when he's not around. Let's see what it is. Next.
Vimukhyam tvai bhogeshu vishayeshu sukham mama katham bhaved daruyosha asangattasyeva tadvad. When you're averse to enjoyments, tell me how there can be delight in the pleasures of senses for me, as for one who is united with a woman made of wood.
So he just calls it out. He says, your indifference diminishes my pleasure. I might as well, be making love to a piece of wood because there's nothing coming back, no response from you. Pretty intense accusation. And he's obviously quite disappointed because he was quite smitten with her. Let's see what happens. Going on.
Natava bhimatam tyaktva kinchinna mama samhitam sarvatha swamanugato jyotsnam kumudavatkila.
Someone has their mic on. Would you please mute your mic? All right, going on, please.
Setting aside your wish, nothing whatever is desired or undertaken by me. I am one, following you in every way, as the white water lily follows moonlight. Note, the white water lily is said to open at moonrise.
So he's more like a male dog following a female in season, I think would be our more modern image. He can't keep his hands off of her. And again, she doesn't resist. It's not like she says, I have a headache. No, none of that. But she's indifferent. She's indifferent. And for him, it's no fun if she's not responsive. So let's see if they can resolve this issue. Going on.
Tadevam te kutaschittam bruhi pranadhikapriye yena shuddhyet tumachittam shapitasi maya priye. Dear one, greater than my life, tell me how that heart of yours is in this manner averse to pleasures, so that my mind can become clear. Dear, you are bound by my oath.
So here he just calls it out and says, tell me what I'm doing wrong. What is it that I can do that can give you pleasure? I am bound by my oath. I want to serve. I want to make you happy. What's the issue? So like a good married couple, he thinks we got to talk about this. Find out what's the problem. Going on.
Chaturthodhyayah Priyasya Kanthasaktasya Nishamyaivam vacho hisa Ishat smita Ishat smitanana praha Rajaputram anindata. She, the blameless Hemalekha, thus hearing the words of her lover, who had encircled her neck in embrace, spoke to the prince with her mouth smiling a little.
So he's got his arms around her and he asks her this, and now she is going to answer him. She smiles. Let's see what she says.
Bubhoda itashi Rajaputram yuktya bravididam. Bubhoda Yishati Rajaputram Yuktya Abravivididam Rajaputro Shrunavacho Naham Tvai Viragini. Wishing to teach the prince, she told this with proper reasoning. Prince, hear my words. I am not one having aversion for you.
So she lets him know she does not have aversion. It's not that she's turned off or is frigid or something like that. That's not the issue. Let's find out what's going on with her. Going on.
Kim syat priyatamam loke kinnu syat priyam tviti vichara paramanityam nantametyatra me matihi. My mind solely occupied with the investigation, always as to what can be the most pleasant in the world, and what indeed can be the most unpleasant, does not arrive at any conclusion in this matter.
So, what she says is her mind is always engaged in vichara, investigation. Remember, we had that earlier on, that the way to cross the ocean of samsara is by investigation. So she says, I'm involved in investigation. What I'm always investigating is, where is happiness? What brings true happiness to a person? And what makes us unhappy? What is the source of misery? Where is real happiness? And what is the cause of suffering or misery? Now, what I love about this relationship, he is such just kind of like a dude. And pretty thick skulled. And she's so patient. And she so knows men. So let's see what happens in this conversation. Going on.
Dhyayayam yetachin yetachira Dhyayayam yetachira nityam stri svabhavavashadaham naitajjanami tattvam me vaktumarhasi tattvataha. I ponder over this daily for a long time. On account of my womanly nature, I do not know this fact. You can tell me this truly.
So, how many women out there in the workplace have had to feign weakness and not knowing just to massage men's egos? And here we are, a text that's probably maybe 1,000 years old, maybe 800 years old. And we have these same archetypical relationships. So she says, I'm just a mere woman. I can't figure this out. You're a man. You can tell me, where is happiness and what causes misery? Because I can't figure it out. Now, this is a ploy. So understand that this is tongue in cheek. This is meant to be very humorous. Those of us who've known women in the workplace have known women even today who, in order to get things done, have to take time to massage men's egos. Because that's how men are. Going on.
Evam prokto hemachuda rahasya prahatam priyam nunam striyo mudadhiya iti satyam na samshayah. Hemachuda, thus told by Hemaleka, said to his beloved, smiling, certainly women are foolish. This is true. There's no doubt.
So he certainly falls right into it. Of course, women are foolish. She's probably just being hysterical. You know, those stereotypic things. So he thinks of her with in a patronizing way. It's just very, very funny. Going on.
Priya priyehi jananti Pashupakshi सरीसृपाः यतस्तेषां दृश्यते हि प्रियेष्व प्रियकेषु च प्रवृत्तिश्च निवृत्तिश्च किमत्र बहुचिन्तनम् सुखं यस्मात् तत्प्रियं स्यात् दुःखं यस्मात् तदप्रियं किमत्र मुग्धभावेन नित्यं चिन्तयसि प्रिये. Animals, birds, and even creeping animals indeed know what is pleasant and what is not, since inclination towards the pleasant and aversion towards the unpleasant is indeed seen among them. Why is there much thinking in this matter? That from which there can be happiness is pleasant, and that from which there is sorrow is unpleasant. Why do you think constantly in this matter foolishly, my dear?
So he's a dude. It's real simple. If it feels good, that's happiness. If it doesn't feel good, that's misery. Go after what feels good. It's so simple. Stay away from what doesn't feel good. What's there to think about this? And this whole view of the world in the tradition we call bhoga. And one who practices this is called a bhogi. And the underlying supposition is this: happiness comes from satisfying as many desires as possible and avoiding situations that make us unhappy. That is this world. That is animals, creepers, people in ignorance think. We vanquish our enemies. We reward our friends. The one with the most toys wins. Bhoga. Unexamined, that's how most people live their lives. Hemachyuta certainly does. Let's see what her response is.
Shrutva priyavachah praha hemalekha punah priyam satyam striyo mugdha bhava nastyasam sadvimarshanam tathapyaham bodhaniya tvaya samyak vimarshinam. Having heard the words of her beloved, Hemalekha again said to her dear husband, "It is true that women are foolish. They have no deliberation. Even then, I ought to be taught by you, having proper deliberation."
So here she feigns ignorance and says, "Oh, yes, women are foolish. We all need to be taught by you. You're such a smart man." Going on.
Subhodita tvaya chaham chintametam visrijyatu tvaya bhogeshu satatam bhavamya nudinam tatah. Well instructed by you, I shall thereafter be with you constantly amidst enjoyments every day, having abandoned this thought.
So I will get your teaching, your instruction, that will resolve my doubt, and then I'll be able to enjoy these pleasures just like you do. Let's see if that in fact is what happens. Going on.
Rajan kukhancha Rajan Sukhancha Dukhancha Yabhyam Bhavati Te Nanu Priya Priye Vinirdishte Tvaya Sukshma Vimarshinam. King, the pleasant and the unpleasant, from which happiness and sorrow arise, have certainly been well indicated by you, having proper deliberation.
So she says, it seems that you know the truth about happiness and misery, what is pleasant and what is unpleasant. Now, let's look a little further into this. So she begins to lead him down the path of vichara. Let's see what happens. Going on.
Ekameva sukham dukkham kaladeshakritorbhida janaye datra tat kasmat pratishtadhyaya vasay pratishtad pratishtadhya vasayini. The same thing alone can produce happiness and sorrow by the difference in appearance, place, and time. Therefore, in such a thing, how is stability of experience possessed of certainty?
So, what she's addressing is this question: what is it that has sukham, that has ananda as its dharma? Remember, the definition of dharma is the nature of a thing, the essence of a thing, without which it would not be the thing that it is. For example, the dharma of waters to be wet. Everybody has that same experience. Water is wet for everybody. It's the dharma of fire to burn. Everybody experiences that in fire. It's the dharma of sugar to be sweet. Everybody has that experience. But not everyone experiences sukham, happiness, pleasure, from the same things. Some people like anchovies, other people can't stand them. Some people like black coffee, other people, oh, too strong. Some people like men, some people like women. Some people like tall blondes, other people like short and dark. Some people like to live by the ocean, other people want to live in the desert. Oh, I couldn't live in the Bay Area. It's too cold. I want to live in Arizona. So the fact of our experience is that we cannot find one particular thing or event or situation which universally delivers happiness. What is it that has happiness as its dharma? That is the question. If we could figure that out, then we could all go for it. Because the fact of the matter is, chocolate's pretty good. But the first piece of chocolate, nom, 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 nom. But if you eat the whole box, whoa. And we can go through all the objects of the world who are governed by the law of diminishing return. The first taste of it is wonderful. And the mind says, give me more, give me more, give me more. You become a morphine. And the more you get, the less rasam it has. And you keep trying to repeat the experience. So the assignment that's implied in this is to watch our minds. Notice the play of enjoyment and suffering. Make friends with it. Stay in that attitude of the witness and investigate the whole phenomenon of pleasure and pain. Sukham dukkam cha. Let's do a couple more so we get a full understanding of what she's driving at. Go ahead, please, Ganesh.
Yato vahni kala bheda prithageva phala pradaha tatha desha vibhedana apyakarasya vibhedataha. As fire, on account of difference in time, is the gear of results quite differently, so it is due to difference in place and difference in form.
So happiness is not like fire. Well, anyway, going on, the next verse. I'm not going to go into that one too deeply.
Shita kale priyo parkhnihi ushme tvapriya eva hi hemoshna desha bhedena priyascha priya eva cha. Fire is pleasant in winter, but only unpleasant in summer. Also, it is pleasant or unpleasant on account of the difference between a cold and a hot country.
Yes. So here she's using fire as an example, but depending on the situation, it can deliver happiness or sadness. Not that it isn't hot, but its capacity to deliver pleasure. Okay, we'll stop there. What number are we? Are we in chapter 4 now, or are we still in 3?
4.
I thought so, yeah. And what number are we on?
We will be doing 15 next week.
15 in chapter 4. So, to sum up what she's going to be driving at, Vedanta says there is no other suffering than wanting something you don't have, raga, or the inverse, wanting to get rid of something I don't like, dvesha, aversion, or what I call the neurotic form. I have what I want, but I'm afraid I'm going to lose it, so I can't really enjoy it. So the assignment here is to watch your mind. Notice what it feels like to want something you don't have. That's the extroversion of the mind. Notice what happens to your mind when you satisfy a desire. What she's going to say in the end here is the happiness that I get from the objects does the same thing to my mind. It varies in intensity and duration, but happiness always tastes the same. I get confused by the diversity of sensory experience. In the end, what I think is the happiness of the world is really only a taste of my self-nature. Mind goes out with spriha, longing, raga, passion, kama, craving. It hurts. The mind comes home. Oh, I'm so glad I got the widget. It feels good. In my ignorance, I think the happiness is in the world. Yoga says it's actually a taste of myself. So watch the phenomenon of your mind engaged in its dance with the objects of desire. The more you want it, the further away it is, the more it hurts. The KKK of yoga, it's not the Ku Klux Klan, Kama, Karma, Krodha. Kama, I want, I crave, compels me into action. I may or may not get what I want, but even if I get what I want, it's only temporary. And the next process is anger, Krodha. And I want to repeat it. I get pissed off. The definition of anger is thwarted desire, unmet expectation. So your assignment is to watch your mind. Watch the phenomenon of craving. Watch what happens when you satisfy a desire. At this point, you're not going to be able to do a whole lot about craving. See it for what it is the way out. Vichara. All right, any questions? We've got about 5-10 minutes left.
Jim, I have a question if I may ask.
Please.
So it's related to the word which we use all the time in Vedanta, which is ignorance, right? We use ignorance in our colloquial language. For example, I'm ignorant of organic chemistry, let's say, and I can go read a book or get a teacher, and now I am no longer ignorant of organic chemistry. But what Vedanta is referring to in ignorance is not possibly an object which I can acquire, consume, and now I am no longer ignorant of it. So shouldn't we rather use the word forgetfulness?
Well, forgetfulness for me implies that at one point I knew it.
I see.
Ignorance means I never knew it. Now, you're right. In the end, the deep knowing, we actually don't ever not know it. But let's talk about the subject under discussion right now. What Hemaleka is showing Hemachyuta is that he's ignorant as to where happiness and misery come from. He's been blindly stumbling through life just like an animal. Satisfying a desire, being pissed off when he doesn't get what he wants, not knowing why he's angry. Solution is to beat on someone or something till I get what I want. Right. Work harder for it. Struggle. And with no awareness of the situation. So she is saying, look, pay attention. Watch your mind. What's really happening? So we're not only going to investigate the nature of the pure self. I am Atma Brahma. This self is Brahman. But we're going to investigate the world as well. And what we're dealing with here is a process called Anyonya Adhyas, mutual superimposition. I superimpose upon myself the qualities of the not self. I am tall, I'm short, I'm good, I'm bad, I'm smart, I'm stupid, I'm successful, I'm a failure, etc. But then I take my self-nature, Satchidananda, and I superimpose it on the world. That Mercedes-Benz exists separate from me, Sat. And the gal driving it, she's really smart, Chit. And I not only like the car, but I like the gal. Ananda. It's over there. It's over there. It's over there. So I superimpose the qualities of the not self onto the self. I superimpose the qualities of the self onto the not self. Mutual superimposition. So we have to investigate both. If we don't, then things like renunciation of the world becomes an act of willpower. And if you still think the world has the capacity to give you real juice, and you're being a spiritual goody-goody, I deserve a gold star because I don't enjoy anything. And there are people out there in the spiritual world doing that. And they're unhappy people because they don't understand. In Gita, Krishna says, the person who removes the objects of desire but allows the desire to remain behind is verily a hypocrite. But their desire leaves them on seeing the Supreme. Really important shloka.
Excellent. Thanks, Jim.
Oh, it's scripture. It's not me. Not me. Excellent question. Anybody else? All right, let's sit.